Hey everybody, it's Thursday.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. That last clip in
Gets
that
us
intro,
every time.
you see that bite,
like,
you set that hook, and you get excited. And I guess that's a great way to welcome everyone to the show and get started. We always start with a fishing report. And I think we did catch fish this past weekend. So where do we start?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was just a lot of grinding, right? It was just a lot of just watching fish come up, and you might get a bite, you might not. Try not to move it too much, and that's about it. There wasn't any color preference. There really wasn't much for for us for plastic body preference or really bait preference in general. It was just as long as it was small enough and they felt like they were hungry, they would eat it.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Okay, so to the people at home, this is proof that we don't practice this ahead of time, because I would say we were on the same lake and within 20 feet of each other, right?
Yeah.
Less than that?
Yeah, probably.
And we had a totally different experience. So
we always have a totally different experience.
Okay, well, here's the deal. So we had talked last week about how, we've been catching some okay fish, but we were kind of out to find some better ones, some good ones. And, we just have some water around us where we know that's possible. So we set out and we have this little lake and it has all of these cribs in it. And the cribs are old and they're half falling over. And it's kind of crazy. But when Josh had drilled a whole bunch of holes, and then we looked around with the live scope, and one of the things that we had noticed is that there were some spots that were drilled straight on the structure, and some spots that were drilled kind of between structures, and gaps that were too big. There weren't really fish there, and I guess we ignored them and no report from that, right? But spots where the cribs were not too far away from each other, we were seeing really a whole bunch of fish passing between the cribs. There was a whole bunch of moving. Fish were really cruising around, and I imagine that they were eating. And so I don't know, maybe I just picked a good hold first, or I don't know what happened, right? But I wouldn't say that the fish were fast and furious all day. So in that case, our reports do really agree. Yep. And I would also say it was a super, super light, delicate bite. And then so in that case, our reports really do agree, right? But I was using a lot of different bug type plastics, and it actually I at one point was using a pink minnow, then a brown bug, and kind of back and forth, and I think both were working. And when the fish were getting sick of my presentation, I would switch, and that they didn't always bite on both, but they would rile them back up, and I would say I got most of the bites on that bug type bait, and that was cool for me to learn, because typically on that lake, that other little bait, a pink minnow that I was putting down, normally that's what they love. And so it felt like the fish were kind of expanding their horizons. I don't know on what they're eating. Maybe that's silly, but we were finding, especially these bluegills, cruising all around like this. And so we were jigging a few feet up off the bottom, and pretty close to the bottom. It was only 12, 13 feet there, anyways, right? It wasn't super deep, and we had some tip ups out because the crappies do kind of roam the nearby basin. But the only bites that we got, I think were bass. So that was all right. But I guess we do have a fun little story to share. And it starts with kind of a tragic incident, is that we both had left all of our weights, like little tiny sinkers, at home. Like you have a million of them. Everyone has these. They sit at the bottom of your tackle box. We had
I'm not sure this constitutes as tragic.
No, well, I'm just saying, it's like you get to that moment, you're out on the lake, you have everything else in the world except for your stupid split shots. And it's like, that does feel tragic. You're like, no, because what did you say? You're like, well, all of our tip ups are set like a foot or two under the ice. Like, how far can you get that minnow to go down that hole? They didn't want to go down there. So it was, so we were the only ones on the lake for a while until another group came. And it took, I don't know, 5-10 minutes in, and you're like, I'm gonna go talk to them. And it was so funny, because it just so happened that earlier that day, or recently, those people had bought some weights, and they said that they hated how they worked, that they were hard to pinch and all that. So they were gracious to share. But it was really shout out to people being friendly on the lake, because so often you hear people territorial of their spots and whose fish is whose and all of those different things. But in this case, once we had those little extra weights, our Bite Me boxes were significantly more effective, and that made for a little bit more fun that day. So I hope that they had some good fish karma come around to them, and I hope that they caught some good fish. But I know we ended up doing pretty okay that day, both of us. I think you caught more fish, and I caught maybe a few bigger fish. But ultimately, we both had a great time, and I think we're really looking forward to this coming weekend because boy, has it been cold.
Yeah, and I think just one little thing to add to that. I think with this early snow cover, the fish have really become accustomed early to their darker conditions, and so especially on those days when the bite is kind of finicky. And just remember, if you have a shack with, because I'm notorious for bringing my one-man shack with, but not flipping it over, just because I like being outside. Like I like watching stuff. I don't like being inside. I go outside to be outside. But during the times when there's a significant amount of snow cover, those holes, you catch a couple fish out of them, and they can become sketchy of the holes. And so just having that little bit of cover, black out your shelter. And I did get more bites after I decided to do that. And so just keep that in your back of your mind, last resort type back pocket thing. And maybe that'll help you get some more fish.
Okay, also one last thing is we're going to bring our guest in because we prepared him only for 5 minutes of us talking. We're way past that. But I did also notice on the background of our screen, it looks suspiciously empty, like we're missing some data. And so I secretly logged in the background to make sure that we were live. And we are. So that is really super great. I don't know. I don't think it's you. I think it's the program tonight. But we have a few people checking in, so I'm gonna say hello to them. And for whatever reason, like I said, I have no idea why it's not showing up. It's unusual. So Eric is checking in. So hi. Troy is checking in from Hastings. Finally made it. So glad that you did. And I think that there's a few other people there. And so I might leave that up. And if other people check in or have questions or comments or things along the way, I will try to keep up with that. But I will warn you, I'm only watching from Facebook tonight. And so if you're in YouTube or I don't know, checking in other places, then we'll get back to you. Yeah, put your questions and comments still in the chat, and we'll follow up. So after all of that, finally, without further ado, let's bring in our guest. So Dan, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah. And we're so excited to see you again because I think the last time that we saw you was the St. Paul Ice Fishing Expo. That's where we met. So for people who are just meeting you here tonight, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Dan Naten. I'm from New Germany, Minnesota. As far as about myself, I'm kind of an inventive person. I grew up on a dairy farm, so you had to learn to fix a lot of things and sometimes build your own. So I've always had a knack for looking at things, and if there's a better way, it usually comes to my mind. And that's kind of how I came about the Nippy ring. Is I was out ice fishing and thought there's got to be a better way of doing things. So that's how it came about.
And you are our favorite kind of person to talk to because whenever there are products made by anglers for anglers, that's always something that is going to be good. It's going to be like user friendly and serve a purpose. So you're talking about being an angler, and so your product is actually called the Nippy ring, right? So we're not necessarily just talking about like sitting on your bucket and jigging, are we?
No, we're not. No. So to give you a little backstory on the Nippy ring, I finally broke down, this was several years ago, and bought a ice castle fish house. And my wife had been telling me for several years to just, life's short, go buy one. And I'm cheap, so I didn't want to spend the money. And I finally did and loved it, absolutely loved it. Brought it home that weekend. Went out to just a little local lake. We were actually going to go do some crappie fishing on a lake that's only about 10 miles from my house. Called a cousin of mine, real good friend and a cousin. And I'm like, hey, meet me out here. We're going to go fishing. I got my new house. And so he was fired up. I was fired up. Set the house up, set the generator up. Because we're kind of planning on staying out there overnight. You bought this nice, it was a 22-foot. And it's nice. You got beds, you got everything in there. It's just like being at home. So we except better because you can fish, right?
Yeah.
So
Rattle reels.
yeah. So we drilled holes. We didn't have any snow on the ice at that particular time. Drilled our holes all out and we started fishing, and I had the heater on, everything just like normal, but the wind was blowing and we were getting so much cold air through those ice holes. And it just kept pouring in there. And it was actually to the point where I was wearing my snowmobile boots to keep my feet warm. The floor is cold. The house is cold. Furnaces are on the whole time. And of course, me not kind of wanting to admit that it was a problem because I was the one who just spent, $26,000 on this fish house. And I didn't say much about it. And my cousin's like, well, yeah. And my cousin's like, well, it's, floor's kind of cold in there, huh? And he's like, did you get the insulated floor? And I'm like, yeah, I got the insulated floor. And, we ended up only fishing for a couple hours that night. And I just packed up and we started heading home because I'm like, it really wasn't that comfortable fishing in. And on the way home, driving home that night, I'm like, number one, I'd spent $26,000 on this house, which you can tell that was for a 22-foot house. This was several years ago. But I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And I think, luckily, I was new to the wheelhouse community at the time. So I had known, about a little bit of stuff, but not a lot about hole sleeves or other devices that people have tried. So I think that kind of, instead of maybe falling back on that in my mind, I was just thinking on the way home, driving home, I'm like, what could a guy do to fix this problem? Because I'm not the only guy who spent all this money on a wheelhouse, and I'm not the only guy having this problem. So by the time I drove home that night and parked it in the garage, I had an idea. And I think I started on it right away that week. And my first prototype was a disastrous fail because it stuck to the ice. We only fished a couple hours and it stuck to the ice. I had to pull my fish house out of the way, get the chipper out, chip it off the ice. So that was a disaster. The theory worked though. It kept the hole clear of ice, and it stopped the wind, like 100%. So I'm like, okay, so the theory is a good theory. We just have to figure out how to keep this thing from sticking to the ice. And I R&D'd it for over 5 years. Took it to, places like Lake of the Woods. It was 25 below zero. And we had 20-mile-an-hour winds. We would not bank our house on purpose. No wheel skirts, that kind of testing, because I am a fisherman and I knew that, to make another product that kind of works, there's no point in that. There's already a lot of those out there. I kind of wanted to make something that I knew was going to work. And I'm kind of a perfectionist that way, where if I get my mind on something, I just can't get it off until I feel that I have got this figured out 100%. And yeah, that's kind of the down low as how it started, I guess. Yep.
I think that is actually so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe Josh, can you bring up a picture of one of these?
You always do this.
I know, but people like to see it. I just think it's
you
relevant.
like to see it.
Well,
I was gonna say I have one.
that's so. I just like that picture of you.
Well, and you have a very nice jacket on. I will have to say that.
Yeah.
So as far as the actual use of these, I mean, you just literally like put these right under your house, and then as you set it down, they're good to go.
Yeah, kind of what I tell people. The easiest way to explain it is take and drill your holes, set your house down about halfway. Because anybody that's got a wheelhouse, is familiar with that lunge. As you lower the house to the ground, it tends to want to move forward a little bit. If you get about halfway down, you're going to get rid of most of that lunge factor. And that's going to do two things. It's going to keep your holes pretty centered. So once you drill them, your hole isn't going to be way off. And the other thing that I always liked is it keeps all the mess underneath your house. You don't have a wet floor. You don't have ice all over the place. So you go ahead and drill your holes when you're about halfway down, and then just literally take your hand and just wipe the ice away. There's no need to keep it or, bank it up, stack it up. There's no need for it. Just kind of knock it out of the way quickly. And you just fold the nippy ring like that, and you just shove it down the hole and then just realign it over the hole. And when you got all your holes in, just finish lowering your house, and it'll compress to whatever surface that it lands on, whether it be on the floor of your house and the other side onto the ice. And then it just makes a thermal bond there and completely seals that off. So you just, no more draft, no more heat loss, a lot less money on propane, and your holes don't freeze up anymore, especially if you're running rattle wheels overnight. You're not, woke up with 2 inches of ice in your hole. So that's how they work. And they are simple because I am a fisherman, and everybody knows as soon as you get to the lake, right, you're there, you get on your spot, you're watching your phone, you're looking at your GPS, and you pick that spot, whether you're in a fish house or you're on a bucket. Once you get that hole drilled, there's something about like getting that line down, and it's just like, I got to get it down there, especially if you throw your Vexilar down or something like that, and then all of a sudden you see their fish. Well, Everybody knows you can't get it down quick enough.
Yeah.
So I wanted a product that was super quick, super simple, fail safe. It literally takes you 2 seconds. Like I said, you don't have to sit there and save your ice shavings or pack snow up. You just literally throw your hand in the hole, wipe it out of the way, shove it in, you're done. So it's super quick, and you can be fishing, fast as you want to after that, get the shavings out and get going. So
that is so cool. And then the other thing that it makes me think of is, and I feel like this picture is maybe what brought this to my mind, but Josh, you were talking at the beginning of the show about how you forget to use your shack, right? You forget to flip it over and close those windows and use the dark. And in your case, you were just fishing and just avoiding that light going down the hole, right? But there's a lot of people who put their ice shacks out in places where they're doing things like sight fishing. And so when you can use those whole insulators, I don't want to say covers, right? I almost call it that, and that's different, right? So, but when you use this and you block out all the light from your shack, that's going to be something that's really helping those people that are like I said, sight fishing perch, or, just, I don't know, even just looking down there. Some people in shallow areas looking for weeds and all these different things. So, and black slide out from the fish. So kind of a bunch of different reasons to use it.
It's funny you mentioned that. So my youngest son that was helping me set up here, we're in Minnesota. We had a ton of lakes around us where we're at too. So we were fishing another local lake to the west of us a little bit. And during the winter, you can get into the shallows, into where the weed lines start. And it's a very clear lake. It's a sand bottom. So you can sight fish gillies there, and it's great. And my son was pretty little at the time. So we were out there, and that's something I noticed too, because you can close all the shades in the house, and with that nippy ring in the hole, it cuts all that light out. And yeah, he was pretty little at the time, but I mean, we were there all afternoon, and he was just having a blast. We were sight fishing, and yeah, it's an added benefit that a guy didn't even really realize it just happened, but it does work good for that too. Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to go towards the other side of the house and around the outside. The fact that you don't have to bank up snow along the edges of these houses, they're not getting any less expensive in the amount of times you hear somebody leaves their shack out just a day or two too long, and then they have to be out there chipping it, and just the added packed in around the edges. You see guys that have to put their trim back on, or something like that, or they scratch up they miss a chip spot and they scratch up the side of their house or something like that. This prevents a lot of that from happening because you don't need to bank up. And so I really think that that's added. But then you also are providing not only the cold from coming in, but the heat from going out. So even though the heat rises, right, there's still some warm air escaping, and that does add to the melting of your shack. And so when you can seal that, you can create that thermal barrier between the ice, the outside and the inside. That just helps in both fronts. So those are two really cool things that just come to mind when I'm thinking about this.
Yeah, I agree with you a ton. I talked to quite a few people at the shows, the multitude of shows he's gone to, and I'm the same train of thought. I mean, they're not getting any cheaper. I mean, it's pretty easy to spend $50,000-$60,000 on a fish house. And most people, when you spend that kind of money, shoveling hard snow against the outside of them is, for me, I never liked it. It's like, I just spent all this money and now I'm throwing all this up against the end of it. So yeah, I do tell people we do not any longer bank with the Nippy rings. We don't feel the need for it. I mean, I also tell people, cause I'm super honest. And if people still want to bank, I tell them, I mean, go ahead. Is it in a 60-mile-an-hour wind? Is that bank going to help you? Yeah, it's probably going to help you a little bit because you have the area from the edge of the house until you get to the Nippy ring, now that your floor is insulated. So if you have an insulated floor, I should say, it's going to help, but I'm going to say, 95% of the time, it's not going to really make any difference by banking it. That's what we found out. So unless you find yourself in that situation where you're maybe out in, South Dakota and you got a 70-mile-an-hour wind, and you're just trying to stay alive out there, maybe that would be the point, but you're probably not going to find any snow in the lake out there anyway, so yeah, it's a good added benefit and not have to throw, frozen snow on the side of your brand new house, so definitely.
So now you said before that you were new to the wheelhouse community, but it doesn't seem like you're that new anymore. So you must know about some of the other hole covers and things like that can go in, the ice castles and the glaciers and what have you. Do those things still fit in the whole rings with the Nippy ring in?
So basically with the Nippy ring, it is a standalone product by itself. So the need for a hole sleeve is pretty much absolute. There's no benefit to running the hole sleeve in it. Mm-hmm. Now, with that being said, some of the hole sleeves, like Sven sleeves, for instance, they have attached, rattle reels, undercover rattle reels and stuff, which is a great idea, especially if you got kids and dogs in there with you. It's a great idea. And yes, I've had some guys that have had the Svens and they do slide in there. They're snug, I'm not going to lie. So you're going to have to work it in there, and they'll work in there, and they're running them. And I've told them before, I said, if you guys run across anything, let me know. Like I said, I'm an honest guy. And if somebody runs across that as an issue, I've got my email. I even have my personal cell phone on my website. And I tell people, I want your feedback. That's how you make a great product even better, is get feedback. And we just never will ever run across every scenario. You can't think of that. It just takes time and people to use it. So yes, I do, not to get too far off topic there, but the Sven sleeves do fit. I would tell people, if you're just having a common hole sleeve with no sort of adaptation, like a rattle reel or something like that, I wouldn't waste my time. I tell people, put them on Facebook and see if you can sell them. I mean, you're not going to use them.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a really good point to bring up. I guess I was thinking more about the cover that goes on top, like the grate, so you don't drop stuff down the hole. Is kind of what I was thinking, like if that fit over the top.
So the grate, if you're a grate or you're whatever you're using is, the Nippy ring is completely lay underneath.
Mm-hmm.
So it's underneath your house. So it shouldn't really affect anything there. If somebody was to come across something, I mean, I'd love to hear about it. And maybe there's a way we can adapt to it or something. But most of that stuff is up on top on that plastic, ridge up there. So ours is completely underneath the house. So I haven't heard of anybody. My buddy was just out in South Dakota 2 weeks ago, and he's got the clear covers because he has a couple of small kids, and he uses those. He's never had an issue with them. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, not that I know of, but like I said, I can't predict everything.
Yeah. Well, and I was almost gonna jokingly ask about colors, but you're making a great point that this is something that goes like under your shack, so this is something that isn't almost like very visible. So if you're the kind of person who's particular about photos or your shack looking nice or things being cleaned up, this is one of those things that you almost don't know that it's there when it's working.
Yeah, you're gonna see a little bit of it around the edge because the whole covers, the holes in the houses are pretty big,
Yeah.
And you're going to see it'll fish up to a 10-inch hole. It is going to be really snug on a 10-inch hole. And we want it to be, by design, it's that way by design because we want it to hug the water as close as we can. And I've told this to many people at the show, if you want a cold beer, you're going to throw it on the ice, right? So you throw it in the cooler and it's on the ice. So essentially what you're doing is you're exposing that beer or pop to the ice to cool it down. So if you think of it that way, the more ice you have exposed, in your house, that's just more cold radiating in and more heat that can leave. So you want to cover that up. And that's part of the reason ours does not stick down to the ice, because we do such a phenomenal job at holding that heat in and holding the cold out. It can't transfer through that bond, thus they don't freeze down. And that's why they're tight in on the hole.
Nice.
That is awesome. And I was saying at the very beginning of the show about how we had met you at the St. Paul Ice Fishing Expo. But there are people who are saying, now that the expos are over, where can they find you to buy these products?
So our website is nippythermal.com, and we got an online store on there. So pretty easy. We offer free shipping on there also. And that's, it's super easy. It's super easy to remember and easy to find.
Yeah. And Josh was able to take that link and post it into the comments. I see our comments did pop up on our end. And so that's nice. So hopefully everyone at home is seeing our comments back. But you'll be able to click that link and go and check things out. And I guess maybe you haven't even thought this far ahead, but for people who maybe are already planning, are you doing shows or expos next year? Did it go well for you this year?
Yeah, it did. It went real well. The St. Paul show was great. It was fun. It was good social media shout on there. And I think the funnest thing was just being able to talk to, fishermen and women that enjoy the same thing you enjoy. And that's to us, it makes the show fun. You would think it'd go on forever. You're on your feet all day, but it is fun answering questions, even though sometimes the questions are the same ones, but it's a new product too. So it's people don't know much about it yet. So no, our plan right now will be to hit St. Paul again. For as far as this year goes, we've got the ICOG show coming up next weekend. And then we've got the Hardwater Life, our Hardwater Campers. That is going to be in, that's like mid-February. I can't remember off the top of my head. You can look it up online, but it's about mid-February. That one's, I think, on Lake Winnebagosh, and ICOG is on Red Lake. So we're going to hit those two. And then we got a couple of fishing tournaments that we're doing some sponsorship work with. And we'll be at those too. We'll be selling there too, but they're just some smaller local tournaments. But I would say for, the general public, the rest of this winter we're going to have ICOG and that Hard Wildlife. Those will be the two big ones. And next summer we'll do, this year, let's see, we did St. Paul, we did Duluth, which was a fun show, and we did, I'm trying to think the other one. It's right next door to me. It's in Hutchinson. So Landcastle was the first show we did, which is only 20 minutes from my house. So
oh, nice.
And actually Landcastle started out in Winstead, which is 5 miles from my house as the crow flies, maybe. And then he moved it up to Hutch last year and tried it at the Hutch Fairgrounds. And I thought it went good. And I don't know why, but they're going to move it back to Winstead, I guess, for next year. So that'll be an easy show for me to make. So, so that's awesome. I mean, we might be on some more. We're on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll, if people follow us on there, we're always trying to post where we're going to be, or if we're offering specials or things like that going on, just to help get the word out. But so yeah, if somebody's curious about shows, they can just follow us on Facebook or Instagram, and I try to get it out ahead of time as much as we can, let people know where we're going to be. If they want to come check it out, it's nice to feel products and squeeze them and stuff like that before you buy them sometimes. So, yeah.
So I have a quick little question. Do you have anything else in the works? Are you thinking about expanding on this, or is this kind of what you're sitting on for now, or don't you want to say?
No, I think when I came up with the name Nippy Thermal, I liked it because it does leave the door open a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I love fishing, and I actually just love ice fishing. I mean, I like summer fishing too, but ice fishing to me is just awesome. And so I wanted to leave that door open a little bit. We actually have some stuff in the works that actually, as soon as next week, I might pull the trigger on a couple things that are going to go with this. I'm trying to get them out this winter that will go with it. But so yeah, I think so. I think so. It's been fun. It's been a fun challenge, the retail world. And like I said, it's fun to do the shows, and it would be nice to expand into some more things. I have, as I told you before, I'm kind of an inventive person. Several years back, I came up with another idea in the wheel fish houses, and it was just awesome. And I still have the prototype in my garage. And to my knowledge, no one has it come up with this idea. So I'm thinking of kind of getting off my butt and maybe trying to get that one up and going too, because I can't tell you what it is yet, but I think that'll be coming. And yeah, there'll be some other things coming.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. That's always exciting. So I just like keeping an eye on everybody.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a really great cliffhanger to have people go and check out your social media platforms, because now I know I'm going to be watching, because if it's as soon as potentially next week, I'm even going to remember to be looking for it.
Now that's potentially. So
yeah.
A lot of things got to fall into place, but I know one of them, we're going to have some accessories that go with it. I don't know if we can get them all done this winter. I was thinking it'd go quicker than it is, but like I said, I am kind of I'm very detail oriented. So I don't want to rush through something and it be, kind of a piece of junk or not really that good quality. Like our Nippy ring it's all American made, everything. And it's just super high quality, because we've all done the Amazon thing, and 3 weeks later we're kicking ourselves saying, well, I should have just bought a good one of whatever it was. And, spent the $20 more and now I'd have it, so, I just didn't want that. I'm not that way. I've learned over the years that if you just buy something good, you buy it once, so I'm kind of the same way with these things coming out. I want them to be good. I want them to be high quality. I want them to make sense. So, if people want to buy them, they're going to be happy with them. So, but they're definitely coming.
That's awesome.
Well, and that's why you're having to come out with other products, because if these are good and people don't ever have to rebuy them, they need something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should be selling minerals, right?
There you go.
Oh my gosh. And then, so I do have to ask this. Do you have any like on ice demos that you're going to be doing if people want to like see these in action, or just watch your social media page?
Well, they can watch the social media page. The only bad thing about that, we haven't been able to turn out what we wanted for videos so far this year, because in our area right now, we just came out of like 3-4 days of 40 degrees.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got ice. It's floating around 12 to 14 inches, but it'll go from 12 to 14 to like 8.
Yeah.
I was just listening to the news this morning, and to the south, west of us a little bit, 3 fish houses went through a lake down there yesterday. So the ice is a little sketchy around here. So we haven't been able to shoot as many videos as we wanted to. I know there's been some people on Facebook telling me, well, yeah, let's see them work. Let's see them work. And I believe me, I want to. I want to get out fishing. I haven't had the time to take the time to head up north, to Red or Lake of the Woods to make a long weekend. It's just been a really busy schedule. But it's cold again now. And I think this week's supposed to stay cold. So I'm hoping, another week or so we can start driving out around here. As far as demos, though, that is one good thing. If people want to come up to ICOG, we will be fishing. It's vendor row, but we're up there to fish too. So we will have the Nippies in the house, and people can, come right in the house, check them out. I'm more than happy to sit and have a beer and chat all about them. That's not a problem. And they can check them out, see how they work. So that would be the next upcoming thing, where they could come see them live on the ice. And then obviously that other one in February, the Hard Water Life, that one will be doing the same thing. So that'll work out. But hopefully a week or two, we'll get another Facebook video out and Instagram of us showing people how we install them and how quick they are. And, everybody likes watching videos,
Yeah.
So we're gonna shoot to get some more of that out as soon as we can get on the ice safely, or safely as possible. So
Perfect.
That is awesome. And I know that everyone else out there is trying to cross their fingers and hope for ice, some good, strong, I was going to say end of the season. Are we middles of the season?
Yeah.
It's not end of the season yet. And so that's good news for all of us. And at least here in Wisconsin, we do have a lot of cold weather coming. So I hope the same for you guys, to be honest.
Yeah, it's looking a lot better. It's looking great for Nippy because we don't have any snow.
Yeah.
So people that have bottom will see how well they do work. And that's a big problem. If we don't have snow, they work just awesome. I mean, they still work even with snow. Like I say, you don't have the bank, but they really shine when you don't have snow and you got a little wind. I mean, you realize how much heat, I did some dimensions just to try and get people to get a grasp on it. So the average fish house has 7 holes in a wheelhouse. It's the average one. So that amounts to 900, I think it's like 964 square inches. Okay. And your front door on a fish house is like 1,100 square inches. So I tell people, would you sit there ice fishing with your front door half open, when it's 20 below zero? You're not going to do it. Okay. So when you don't have those holes sealed up tight, that's what you're doing. You're sitting there at your door half open. And we have to have it open because we got to get to the ice to get to the fish.
Yep.
And until now, there was really no other product that would completely seal that off, where you could completely close that door, so to speak, 100%. And this does it. And when you think of it that way, you wouldn't fish with your door sitting open, I mean, we've all fished with little kids, and what do we say? Close the door when you go out, right? It's, when you think of it like that, then it starts to put it in perspective, and you start to think about, the amount of propane that you're going to save, because these things are not cheap. They're not built cheap, but they're not cheap. So when you think of it that way, if you do any amount of fishing at all, they're going to pay for themselves with propane savings alone. Mm-hmm. And then just the fact of being comfortable. I mean, I love fishing, but I love fishing in my socks. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm lazy that way. I want to wear my socks and have a nice warm floor, and that's what you get. So,
that I didn't think we were going to just keep chatting, but this, what that makes me think of though, is sometimes people in wheelhouses and they'll like go to toss a fish back, is I feel like usually when this happens. And if the fish like flops out and then it's like stuck under the house, and it's like, that's stupid. Nobody likes that. That was not the point, especially catch and release angler. They want that fish to be released nice. And so this is, like you're saying, a great way to seal up that hole. So, awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to see pictures of fish coming out. Oh my goodness. Well, I love checking out all the pictures that you do have on the website, and we'll check out social media, and we'll stay tuned for whatever else that you have coming. And maybe, who knows, we'll have to have you on again another time.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, but I know that we put the website in the comment section, so people at home can click on that and go and surf around and maybe buy 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, depending on how big your ice house is. But thanks so much for being here this evening to chat with us.
Yeah, I appreciate being on.
Yeah, it is actually always a ton of fun, and anytime we can sit and chat ice fishing, that's always the goal. Right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And to the people at home, thank you guys for being here as well, because that is always a big part of the fun. And I guess with that, we're looking forward to seeing everyone on next week's edition of The Night Bite.
Night, everybody.